Hello everyone, we are back again for another episode of our full site build. This one we are going to build out this feature section right here in the gray. Let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to launch Etch here into our home page. I'm going to add in another section. We'll call this our feature section. And my inner, scroll down here so that we can see this. And if we look here, we have a total of 5 items, and probably just lay these out in a flex format for this one, just so that they wrap easier. And it just shows up a little bit different way than if we do it with a grid. So we'll just take a look at how we can do that with these. So inside of this, I'm going to create a flex div, which is going to be our list wrapper. And I can make this a UL. Then inside here, I want a div. And inside that, I want my flex div with a div for our icon. And in this case, I don't know that I'm going to make these. I think I will make these headings actually. So I'm going to put my heading first, then my text, then my div with my icon inside of it, just for my actual semantic order here. For these, they should be H3s, make them a little bit smaller. This is going to be my list item. And this is going to be my feature card. It's my description, icon wrapper, and icon. I think that should be everything I want to put in there. I think what I will also do, similarly to like I did on our footer, is I'm going to add in a heading in here. It's going to be our H2, and I'm going to call this features. And I am going to add this as a just screen reader text. So put hidden accessible on that, and it's just going to hide it in the background because visually I don't want that in there like we have here. So let's dive in and start building these out. I think what I want to do is I'm probably going to create a component on these. I'm going to BEM class them first and then create component. For my icon, strip color, and I'm going to set my very first one to the clock. And if I look at our sizing here, we are 20 pixels. Inline size to rem of 20 pixels. On that icon, makes it a little bit smaller. On this, I'm going to go order of -1, puts it to the top. For my background, we want to set our padding to space XS and our background color to primary ultralight. And on our icon, we want our color to be just primary. And again, it always puts that dark on there. That's something that they'll be fixing. It needs to be a little bit darker. Okay, we'll leave that as is. I want this to be, have a radius, and then inline size of max content. And I think I am pretty happy with that. It looks fairly close here. Maybe a little bit less padding if I did divide by 2. And does it let me calc that out? It doesn't. So I'll just add that in myself here. All right, that looks a little bit better. The icon takes up a little more size there. On my very first one, the same day service is going to be our heading. And on our second one, it's going to be fast response. So it looks like I actually probably want to add a wrapper around my heading. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in. I'm just going to go wrap in a div. I'm going to move my description in there, and we'll call this the content wrapper. Because what I want to do here is set my flex direction and my gap to be 0 there like it is. So if we go back and look, those are going to be centered. Perfect. And again, we want our inline size to be max content. All right, that's perfect. And then on our feature card, we're going to go our flex column. And again, we'll center these as well. And we want to get a little bit of padding in here. I'm going to go with space XS on that, just to make sure that we have some space around it if we need it. All right, I'm going to hit save here because I want to actually duplicate these out. What I think I'll probably do right away is actually set some props here, just so we have those. Call this my icon, heading, and description. All right, so we can target these by clicking this little target right here and then clicking on the item. For this one, I want to actually click on my SVG, and I don't know if it's going to let me target that. It does not. Okay. So props.icon there. I'm going to hit save. We're going to exit. And now on my feature card, I can actually come in and set that to the one I want. And I'm going to leave these as my default here. So now we can come through and actually BEM the rest of this, and you can see my list styling goes away. And if I duplicate these out, I need a total of 5 of them. And on my list, I want to set this to flex row. I apologize, that should have been on my list wrapper here. All right, so we got them all sitting next to each other. We can see sizing wise, they do not all fit. So we can set flex wrap of wrap, and it starts to wrap for us. And if we center everything, we can see it centers everything nicely. So that's the first thing I'm going to do on those. I do want to set my background color to be our base ultra light. Let's go back and take a look here. I think I do want our icon to be a little bit bigger. So let's go ahead and edit our component again. I just wanted to get our list styling out of there and start getting to similar sizes here. So on my actual heading, I'm going to change my font size to my H4. Makes it a little bit smaller. On my gap here, I'm going to set this to space XS as well. Bring that a little bit closer. And then on my icon wrapper, I think I want to leave that where it was, a little bit bigger. And maybe what I'll also do is go up in size a little bit on my icon. Okay, pretty happy with that. Let's take a look on the front end, see what that looks like. It's a little bit too much spacing in here for my liking, so let's drop that down. If I actually click in here, let's see what we can set on our padding. So I'm going to exit our component right now, come back up to our feature section, and I'm going to set my padding block to space XS, and that pulls that down to be much closer to what we want. So let's start actually building out our different cards here. So we got upfront pricing and no surprises on the second one. And I had that capitalized. And for here we had our $sign, which is right here. Our next one down is going to be parts and labor. And warranty included. And my icon is going to be the shield. Next one down is going to be premium brands and Moen, Delta, and Gerber. And I used my fancy center dot here that I'm just gonna copy and paste in the center here. Again, I can never remember how to actually make those, so I just copy and paste them. Makes my life a little bit easier. And that icon needs to be our wrench. And lastly, it's gonna be our award for here. And since 1999, 25 plus years. So now you can see our sizing is a little bit different on all of these. So one thing I might actually do is set a minimum width on here, just so they all look equal. Let's double check on the front end. Another thing I want to do, okay, so on my list wrapper, I actually want to go space evenly on these, and then that shouldn't actually require me to set up my width on these. Hit save, refresh, and we're good there. What happens when we come back in here, I'm gonna hide my interface just so I can kind of see what happens as we narrow things down. We get smaller and smaller, and they just stack. It's a little more space than I want as we stack. So let's take a look at that. I think what I'm actually going to do is take our padding off of here. I'm going to hit save, exit. Let's see what that looks like when we expand it down. So I feel like that spacing looks a little bit better. You can see we get some that still kind of go next to each other. I'm wondering if maybe we'd be better off actually setting this as a grid and seeing if we can get these to sit next to each other. I actually think I'm going to leave it as is. All right, so another quick video here. That one was a little bit faster because we didn't have to do a whole lot. Because these icons are just visual, I'm not actually going to add any ARIA text to them. I do want to double check my colors of them. Let's go back to my palette and here, because with that light, I need something that's a little bit darker, but I think that semi-light ends up being too dark. Maybe we can take our semi-dark and make that a little bit lighter. So let's bring this up, and we can see it's changing our color a little bit. I think I'll go with maybe 50 on this for now. I'm gonna click save and exit. And I'm pretty happy with that. You can see a couple of these I'm gonna need to actually come in and set my color to my primary dark as well, so that they're all matching. All right, there we go. View on the front end, and we got that section all put together, matching here. Again, my icon color isn't quite perfect, but I think I'm pretty happy with it because I need to make sure that we're hitting that contrast ratio. Maybe what I could do here is I'm going to exit this, go to my palette again, and on my light color, maybe I'll just drop that down even more. I think I'm gonna leave it right here. I don't think we're using that lightness anywhere else. And then it might let me actually be able to use a different color on the icon so it still meets that color. So I'm gonna multi-cursor here and just want to see what happens with just primary. And I'm gonna leave the just primary. I think that looks a little bit better and is a lot closer to what we had here. Perfect. I like that. I think maybe the last thing I do is on my list wrapper. I think I'm just going to make this space S. Just give it a tiny bit more. And we are good to go. All right. That concludes this episode. In the next one, again, we're going to go to this next section and start building this out. Again, we have 2 cards here. And on this one, I'll probably use a component to do this and just have 2 variations of it. And it'll automatically have that icon in there based on the actual style that we choose. So that way I can just choose it as my one of my props, and it'll automatically set it that way, and I just have to enter in all of the text for that. And I think we will also probably create a section intro as well, even though we don't use it in a ton of places, but we use it in a few. So there might be a few different variations that we'll have to go through and set it up, because you can see on this one, we have this pill here, and then our heading versus just a normal accent heading in our heading. So we'll play around with that in the next video. So stay tuned for the next one. Drop a comment, drop a like, subscribe if you haven't. Let me know what you think of these videos. Thanks.